Talking with Oiler head coach Corey Allen as they get ready to hit the road for the first time in the 2023 campaign here, heading all the way over to Pleasantville, New York to take on the Setters of Pace University. And Coach, before we get into this week's matchup, just briefly on last week, we talked about in the post game, being an unfamiliar opponent to a lot of Oiler fans. They maybe did not know what to expect. I know you guys knew you were going to see a good team, and that's certainly what you saw on the field.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't think that there's any moral victories in the game of football. You win it or you lose it. But once it's done, now it's time to move on. And we faced a very, very good opponent week one, and we're going to use that as a positive as we move forward because we look at the things that we did right, the things that we did wrong in all three phases of the game, and work to get better. It's a long season and a good test right away, and we came up in the short end of the stick, so we got to rebound.
And that's exactly where I was going to go. One game does not make a season either way. You could have won the game, and it didn't make the season the same as what it is. So when you guys broke down the film, what were some of those things that you're going to be able to take out of that into these next few games?
Well, we just need to play not mistake-free, right? But we need to do our job when called upon. And when I'm talking about that, we're talking about that in all four phases of the game, in offense, special teams, defense, and coaching. We need to make sure that we're doing our job in certain situations. And I think everybody in this program takes a lot of pride in that, in doing our job. And there were a couple uncharacteristic mistakes that were made, and you attribute them to first-time starters or first game or staff shakeup, whatever it may be. But we need to work through those things and do it fast because here we are on to week 2 already.
First road game of a season is always interesting because you've got new guys who haven't done it before going to a new unfamiliar place, and it's a pretty good poke of a trip as well. Talk about the logistics and the challenges it brings.
Yeah, for any of the old Oiler fans out there that are familiar with some of the GLIAC road trips, we're no stranger to long trips here. Made the trip down to North Greenville last year, out to Southwest Baptist the year before in Bolivar, Missouri. So, we've seen our share of long road trips, but, the challenge really is just taking the show on the road. It's the fact that everything has to be done a day earlier. The prep has to be done. The game plans have to be typed up and done. There's a lot of work, to get to the point of getting on the road, but then once you get there, right? And I think of Gene Hackman and Hoosiers, right? He had to measure the 10
feet, right?
It's still 10 feet, and that's what it is. It's 53 1/3 wide, and it's 100 yards long, and on that field we'll play.
Let's talk a little bit about that opponent, and then we'll also go talk about what's ahead for the next few weeks as well. But the Setters coming off a loss as well. You got two teams here who got a bad taste in their mouth after week one, and they're going to be looking to get rid of it just like you guys are.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you look over the last 5 to 6 years, Pace has been a winning program in the NE10. And again, I mentioned earlier this week on the Coach's Corner, the NE10, we faced them in the 17 playoffs in the form of Assumption, who had an excellent football team that year. So there's a respect level there for what that conference is capable of. And this is a team that's had winning records over the last 5 to 6 years in that league. So they certainly aren't going to just walk out and say, "Oh, here come the Oilers." We need to show up and play our game.
Incidentally, this is only the second school, I don't know if you know this in Oiler history, that they begin with the letter P. We played Pac Lutheran 3 times. You're looking at me with disbelief. This is only the second school that begins with the letter P in Oiler history competition.
That's a late in a blowout game ESPN stat.
That is exactly what that is right there. Let's talk about them in a little more detail. Systematically, what can Oiler fans expect to see from the Setters?
Well, they're a team that likes to be multiple on offense. They're a team defensively that has the ability to switch up their fronts and switch up their coverages. They have a lot of flexible, multiple pieces on both sides of the ball. So again, it's about doing our job and sticking to our base and doing what we know how to do. Because when you stick to your base, then you have the answers, you would think, at that point in time.
We talked about this being the first road contest, but it's the first of 3 in a row. Obviously, some of that is beyond your guys' control, and some things got switched around late. But talk about the challenges of that. But I also got to think there's an advantage to it as well. Coach Keys used to talk about taking the boys out on the road, and it's us versus them, kind of mano-y-mano. Is that how you guys are approaching these next 3 weeks?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, the schedule is what the schedule is, and we're going to embrace it. I mean, I think back to 2011, we beat Wayne State in the last week of the season. They snuck into the playoffs and they won 4 straight road games on their way to a national championship appearance. So playing on the road multiple weeks in a row is nothing that's foreign. Is a 3-week stretch a little extreme? Sure it is, but that's okay. That's what it is for us. And if you love the game of football, you're going to play it anywhere at any time, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, Coach, what's it going to take for the Oilers to come away with the victory?
We need to play a physical brand of football in all 3 phases. We need to play a physical brand of football, a violent brand of football within the means of the game. And that's the style that we always want to be known for. And if we go out there and do that and we strain and play with intense effort and play for each other, then we'll be fine.
All right, go Oilers.
Go Oilers.
All right, Coach, I appreciate his time. Want to encourage everybody to check out the schedule page. There is a link there if you cannot make the trip to New York, but you can tune in and check it out. As we understand it, that stream is free to the public to check out what the Oilers do. Also check back after the game, as we'll have a post-game interview with Coach Allen as well, get his thoughts on the game and what is still ahead for the Oilers this season. Thank you for tuning in. You're listening to Oiler Football